An underused class in real racing and sim racing, the GTE cars on iRacing make their debut here on Pit Stop TV this evening through the Simpit Road Racing Series. It's still a preseason race, this still does not count for points, and there are still kinks being worked out, but it is a race at Circuit of Spa-Francorchamps for the Simpit Road Racing Series, and it's coming to you live on Pit Stop TV. Hi, welcome to Pit Stop TV in the virtual Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. I'm Andrew Cardinale IV with JP Acosta alongside. And honestly, this is something I never expected us to have, JP. GTE cars on the channel, that is a new one for us, but I'm so glad that we now have Ford GTs, well, hopefully, Chevrolet Corvettes, the Porsche RSR, the BMW M8, and the, of course, Ferrari 488 on this channel in their GTE form. That means no anti-lock brake. There we go. Almost said anti-brake lock. Anti-lock brakes. No ABS. We can go sliding into as many gravel traps and runoffs as we please. It's going to be fun.
Oh, it certainly is. It's certainly a blast having the GT. I think it's one of the fan favorite leagues, like non-leagues, car categories that we have on iRacing. There's so much fun. As you mentioned, no ABS as well. Makes things a lot more difficult, especially when you go down the inside of someone, when you head into a big braking zone. And that's some of the things that we have in Spa-Francorchamps, Andrew, as you mentioned on this preseason race. You know, big braking zones, especially when you come down to the bus stop chicane. You can see there's 6.93 kilometers, 4.31 miles of amazing up and down mountain roads. It's certainly a blast, and it looks like drivers will have to deal with another factor, Andrew, as well, which is visibility. You can see, I think the sun is going down, and, well, that makes things a lot more difficult.
Yes, it has gotten darker throughout the course of this 45-minute practice session for these drivers, and it is going to continue getting darker as per the European Sprint Series schedule. We are in the evening here at Spa, so we'll see this track get into the full darkness. Obviously, headlights are a nice thing, but if you get some damage, maybe iRacing takes that bumper away from you, and you don't have that visibility that you had previously. I've done that before at Sebring. It's not very fun. Let's take a look at the track map here for Spa. It is what we know and love. There's not too much that we haven't seen before. Well, there's really nothing that we haven't seen before because we don't have the reconfigured Spa just yet here on iRacing, but it is the classic Spa that we know and love. A discrepancy, though, that I should point out is we are on the Grand Prix pits, which means we actually merge back up onto the track out of La Source, not all the way back up out of Radion. So a little bit different here, but these cars are going to cram into those Grand Prix pits and be perfectly fine. Just a shorter pit lane, and really nothing else has changed.
Yeah, absolutely not. It's a track I think 90% of iRacers do love. Obviously, you mentioned La Source. That's where, you know, the action, I guess you can say, starts. You know, a big braking zone, a very tight corner. Then you had it, well, uphill and flat out. I think it will be on these GT3s, up Eau Rouge and Radion. Then you head into the Camel Straight, Andrew, to another big braking zone down into La Combes. Turn 7, 5, 6, and 7. Obviously, you know, being really tricky. Then obviously now you start going downhill after climbing all that mountain into turn number 8 and No Name, which, well, now kind of has a name, I guess, a Jackie X corner, and then you head into Pouhon, a really fast left-hander that just gets, I guess, the middle part of the race course started.
Yeah, we have turn 9 labeled as the Jackie X quarter, which it is, but I'm still going to call it No Name. I don't think I can break that habit, but you'll go down the hill through Pouhon, down to La Fagnes, and through Campus, and that honestly is where this GTE difference versus GT3 that we've covered for a few years now here on Pit Stop TV, I think that's where the difference is going to be made, along with, of course, braking zones like Lacombe and into Bruxelles, but I really feel like down to turn 12, you've got to try and carry all the speed you can through 10 and 11, and you've got to get hard on the brakes for La Fagnes and actually get the car to rotate into that corner, and it just begins a whole system, a whole sequence of really tight racing line corners, if you will, all the way, of course, back around to Blanchimont and the bus stop chicane to wrap up a lap here at Spa. Let's take a look at the schedule for this series. Of course, no standings yet, and well, Spa isn't even on the schedule because this is a preseason round, and this is the final preseason round for the Simpit Road Racing Series, but this is the season schedule that we will see begin next week at Circuit of the Americas, JP, and this is a pretty good one.
Yeah, it certainly is. Obviously, we started Coda, which is going to be a fun track on these cars, but I'm most excited, Andrew, for Fuji. I mean, I haven't seen a race around that racetrack unless it's from highlights on YouTube or maybe even Gran Turismo. So seeing on iRacing with GT cars, that's certainly going to be special. Then we head into Watkins Glen and Road America, Sebring as well for, I guess, a North American style of, a leg, you can say. And then, well, we head into Monza, Red Bull Ring, Le Mans. I mean, that is fantastic. Daytona and Silverstone. I think this calendar, this layout has it all.
This is definitely a very GTE schedule, going to places like Circuit of the Americas, even Watkins Glen, Road America, Sebring, Monza. Really, everything I feel like aside from maybe Fuji is very GTE, and even Fuji is pretty well in that category, I suppose. But especially going to Circuit de la South, what is GTE known as here in the States, or at least what was it known as? Well, GT Le Mans. So to have GTE cars here on the channel, and we're going to Le Mans in round number 8, that I think is extra special, and I'm very, very thrilled that we're going there just ahead of Daytona, right after Austria. Really good spot there in the schedule, and close to the finale there on December 4th at Silverstone. Practice going to wrap up. That means we are ready then to go qualifying, and drivers are already getting out onto track. One of the first ones is Andrew White. Now, I should stress, I've already mentioned this is a preseason round, and sometimes there are kinks that have to be worked out, such as this. You're going to see all night long, because of the way the name is structured in the league, we don't actually get last names on the ticker, because the ticker does pull the league set nickname. In this case, that is adding the pro or amateur kind of thing there. So this is just one of those kinks that has to be worked out. It'll get worked out, but it is a little bit unfortunate for this evening, and it's just going to make things a little more difficult on you, more so than myself, JP. It's really making you have to learn these guys on the fly from the entry list.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just gonna be one eye on the screen to follow, another eye, down in my entry list, just to make sure I'm on the right guy. You can see there, number 4. This is Clint Fletcher. That's gonna be easy because, well, he's the first guy on the entry list, so I can follow him quite easily. But as you mentioned, it's gonna make things a bit more difficult. But well, that's part of the fun, I guess. And as you mentioned, he's also on the Porsche as well. Well, looks like I got the name wrong, actually, Andrew, so never mind that. But yeah, as you mentioned, he's on the Porsche. One of the trickiest cars for me I found when I was racing in iRacing, especially, down braking zones. I couldn't really get this car to work on myself, so it's going to be nice seeing these guys tackling it to the limit.
Here's the 004 you were talking about. As you can see, these drivers are getting it on track for their open qualifying session. Clint Fletcher in the 004 is a pro driver. The 4 car is an amateur, and you'll see, of course, that demarcation with the A and P next to the driver names. So on board with a couple of Porsches, let's see if we can find something a little bit different. There's Sam Hinchey, also in a Porsche. Here we go, Johnny Alford in a Corvette, number 710 in the pro category. And, well, you know what? We haven't seen the Corvette before on Pit Stop TV. This is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I love this car, Andrew. In fact, I saw one in the road yesterday, so seeing it in the full GTE form is certainly amazing. It looks very, very nice, very aggressive, and I'm pretty sure it's still very fast on the iRacing, so it's certainly going to be nice seeing at least one of the American entries, making it to the list and battling those European masterpieces, I guess you can say, of engineering.
So staying on board here with Johnny Alford. Well, let's go back on board, I should say, with Johnny Alford as he works around Pouan and down to Lafayette. Again, a pretty tough piece of racetrack right there for turn number 12. How about Michael Thompson in car 314? That's a Ferrari. And here we go. A long line of cars headed up to Eau Rouge.
Oh, and you can see he's going to have to slow down. There's no way around. He's going to try to go around the outside wheel. A bit of contact. Luckily, no crash, but that's going to mean he's going to have to go back to the pit lane to make sure he gets the car into pristine condition. But Andrew, we saw there could be a hint of possibility that could happen in the racing.
I'm sure we'll see things like that in racing, yes. And here's Amir Assad down to turn number 5, down to Lacombe. On board his Ferrari. Actually, I think this is a Porsche. I gotta get used to these car onboards, I suppose, and we can double check that, yes, this is indeed a Porsche for Amir. And oh, somebody's going for a spin. That was Dustin out of California, Dustin Oberlo in car 88 in his Corvette. He'll reset to the pit lane and get back after it. But that's the big trick, especially at a track like this, where you've got to go so far to get back to the start-finish line, JP. Having to reset in qualifying is really going to hurt you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, just losing that lap, essentially having to go back, doing it, I think it's a 2-minute, over 2-minute lap. So it's a whole lot of time lost. And then obviously, you know, starting your flying lap, that's another 2 minutes. So if you just, I mean, simply have a perfect lap and you have a mistake, it's going to be at least 4 minutes until you finish your next flying lap. So it's really tricky to lose a lap or have any sort of contact. You can see the number 59 of Terry. He's coming up to the final chicane, and I think this is going to be one of the first flying laps that we have set. Andrew, you're going to be able to confirm that. He looks first on this train. Does he set a lap time? It looks like
he will.
There we go.
Terry Crouch.
Yeah. 2:11.
Terry Crouch to pole. Some more times following in. One of those being Randall White in the number 84. You see a lot of cars coming across the line, wrapping up their first qualifying laps. And, well, here is Randall White, second place currently in qualifying in car 84. Kevin Burrows in car 426. Sam Hinchy in car 93. And James Dowling currently rounding out your top 5 in his number 34 Porsche.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of Porsches in the top 5 so far. It looks like only Terry on the Ferrari breaking up that gap. And now we have a new fast lap for the 019. That's going to be Elliott. And I'm not quite sure which car he's running, but I'm assuming, Andrew, the pace on the Porsche seems pretty quick on the qualifying aspect. We're going to have to wait and see how these cars are going to handle on the race. Obviously, 75% fuel loads for this opening round, I guess you can say, this exhibition round. And it's going to be interesting to see how the cars will react in different fuel levels and how the drivers obviously will adapt to them.
75% fuel load for these drivers today, a 1-hour race of 60 minutes. That'll pertain for the season. And yeah, once again, the names on the ticker, that was an unexpected thing when we saw, well, when we loaded into the session and pulled up the ticker for the first time today. Our ticker pulls the name directly from the league nicknames, and so the league nicknames here in the Simpit Road Racing Series are set so that there is a badge, if you will, a parenthesis and a letter for each class. And so basically, that's set by the league. It has the parentheses and whatnot, but what it does is basically tricks the software into thinking that the class note, if you will, is the last name, because it sees 3 different names and it's ignoring the middle name, thinking that is the driver's middle name, and so it's taking the last bit of text as the last name. It's something that I didn't realize was set this way, and hey, it's just something we learn about as we go sometimes, and will be fixed, I'm sure, for COTA next week. But on board here, into the final bus stop, and what would you say is the most difficult corner here at Spa, JP?
I think I would say either Puon, you know, just getting that perfectly without extending, but I would also say, you know, the bus stop chicane, you know, having that braking zone nailed down, not locking up the tires. I think that's one of the trickiest spots and one of the trickiest corners I think drivers will have to face today, especially, Andrew, with something you already mentioned, no ABS to help these guys today. That's going to be critical.
Yeah, of course, the GTE class operating a little more bare bones as opposed to GT3 with no ABS. There we go. Completely blanked on that one for a moment. So obviously it's harder to actually force things into a braking zone, harder to actually push into a braking zone. But I like that. I always liked that about GTE when I was able to run it, and it's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, it certainly is. You know, it's a difficult learning curve, especially when you jump from something with ABS to without. You know, you have to really adjust your braking. Obviously, it's not ideal to use ABS when you still have that on your car, but it's still a whole different learning scenario. You know, learning to ease off the brake when the tires lock, you know, how much to ease off to make sure you don't run off road. And obviously, when you're overtaking, when you want to overtake someone down a braking zone, that makes things a bit more difficult as well. You have to be more cautious. So that whole scenario brings, I guess, excitement not only for the drivers but for us as spectators as well.
Watch these guys. This is car, double oh 004, which is, as we learned, Clint Fletcher in his Porsche, chasing a number 77 Corvette. It is Brandon Carl in front of him. Let's go over to Brandon's point of view. And this is a camera that I really enjoyed setting up on these cars. This is hanging right off of the left side of their cars. Looks like Clint's going to pull off. But this is right above that mirror. And even on the BMW, actually, it's kind of tucked into that left side mirror, JP. It's a really cool perspective, and I think will add a lot to battles as these guys wrap up their qualifying efforts. A few drivers moving around positions as well as, pole has changed to driver 019, that is Elliot Hellier in his, he's registered in a Ford, but JP, how much do you want to bet that he's not in a Ford this evening?
Oh, I would bet a lot, but I wasn't going to bet on a Corvette. I was going to bet on a Porsche, so I'm glad you changed that really quickly. So, yeah, that's interesting to see. So I think we have a Corvette, a Ferrari, and then I think 3 straight Porsches, if I'm not mistaken. So nice to see 3 different cars on the top 3 positions so far.
And our top M qualifier is Stan Donnett in number 401. That is at least per the entry sheet, that should be, any car in class. There you go. So, and I just realized that is one heck of a name, Stan Donnett. Yes, I've seen that before. Stan in a Porsche this evening. And Elliot Hellier leading in pro in a Corvette. Terry Crouch, I really thought he would be a little bit faster in this qualifying session. Went fastest in practice, and we'll get a chance to wrap up this lap here. But his Ferrari is just a little bit off in this qualifying session, and by a little bit, I mean 7/10, almost 8.
Oh, that's a big gap. That's going to be a big gap. Obviously, in qualifying, just to get that back, maybe the car is a bit more tailored to the race. I think he's going to hope for that. His race pace certainly has to be up, because if you're losing 7/10 a lap, Andrew, that's just going to be a matter of time before, you lose complete contact to the car ahead. And even with the slipstream around Spa, I don't think that's going to equate to that nearly 0.8 of a second gap that we're seeing right now.
On board here with Terry Crouch. A few other drivers wrapping up their qualifying efforts. Ken Nickel on track in car 33, it looks like, in a Ferrari, as well as Eric Hardiman in car 52, and that seems to be either a Ferrari or a Porsche. That is a Martini Ferrari. Good thing Jeremy Clarkson didn't get to that Martini logo and change it to Martin. Hopefully, at least somebody out there gets that reference, considering it was... Yes, that was a great episode. But let's see. Christian Clark, position 29 currently. It's good to see more and more Corvettes in this series, but I wish we had a few Ford GTs. So drivers, if you're out there hearing us, whether it's live or after the fact, we want to see Fords in this series for COTA and beyond.
Oh yeah, we certainly do. We mentioned on the pre-broadcast, didn't we, how excited we were seeing the Ford GTs on the entry list, but then obviously, on this pre-round, looks like we didn't have, I don't think we have a single Ford GT, so that's kind of, a bummer, but, it's still nice to have all these different cars, out there and, just running around, having different classes. We're kind of used to GT racing with even NARL, if you remember, Andrew, sometimes we have just one whole class of cars and just one manufacturer. Sometimes that makes things a little bit not nice to see, as looks like the 019 of Elliott just went a little bit quicker. That's really good. But it's nice to have this variety of cars racing around. I've seen Corvettes, Porsches, BMWs, and Ferraris running around the same racetrack. It's always nice.
Hellier going a bit faster there and making it more insult to injury for the rest of the field as Jan Christianen sits in the second spot, and Terry Crouch. He'll give me some hell for that one, I'm sure. But Terry Crouch sits in the third spot now, over 1 second behind pole. Here's Christian Clark wrapping up his effort. Currently 29th spot, the only car on track. We'll see if he's able to get anything else. But while he does that, let's take a quick step aside and let's check out some gear that you can actually get from GSI. We have a couple of partners here with the series, Gomez Sim Industries and Get Closer Racing. Let's check out some gear that you can get from GSI, Gomez Sim Industries. We'll be right back. So Christian Clark, there we go, goes no faster in his qualifying effort, stays 29th position it looks like, and will start from that spot back nearly out of the top 30. But JP, this means we can kind of reset, kind of get to learn these guys really. I mean, we can get a gauge of what's going on in qualifying, but you don't really learn any of these drivers until you see them on track for the first time in racing conditions. So we'll get that opportunity here in just a couple of moments. What is your number one expectation from seeing GTE cars at Spa for 60 minutes? Let's check out the starting grid. On pole, Elliott Hellier, and looks like actually it's not going to populate for us, but Elliott Hellier on pole, Jan Kristinen in the second spot, Terry Crouch will start from third, Randall White fourth, Kevin Burrows fifth, Sam Hinchey will start from sixth, Stan Donnet from seventh, James Dowling eighth, Sven LeMay, I'm going to go with, hopefully that's close, in ninth, and Moses Kwai is starting from the 10th spot. Some others in the field, Pete Snake from 11th, then Clint Fletcher 12th, Michael Thompson 13th, I'm not sure how to get this name, 008. Yeah, you know, we're going to say Christopher. And then 008 from the 14th spot, Johnny Alford from 15th. Starting 16th, you'll find Amir Assad, Ken Nickel 17th, then Brandon Waters, Sean Cole, and Ola will start from the 20th spot. And I apologize for some of the Scandinavian names. I just don't have the ability to get those ones, so well, the season goes on. Starting 21st, David Payne in car 73, Eric Sanchinelli in the 22nd spot. Let's see, car 82, I have to go back to the entry list for this one. I know it's Shireman, I believe, for the last name, Helco Shireman, I believe, from the 23rd position, Dustin Oberlo from 25th. 24th, that is, Brandon Carl, 25th, David Sarator, 26th, Mike Nickum, Ken Estep, Christian Clark, and Alice Mom will wrap up the back end of the top 30. But the field is headed down to the bus stop chicane, JP, to get this race underway. We'll drop the green rag here in just a couple of moments for this one. It is good to see a field deep with GTE cars, 36 strong, headed down to the bus stop chicane here at Spa, ready to get this race underway. And out of the bus stop chicane, we are green for the final preseason round of the Simpit Road Racing Series. And down to turn number 5, Lacombe, of course, the first time. Elliott Hellier leading the way. It is Terry Crouch second, Jan Christian in the third spot, Randall White fourth, and Stan Donnet battling here for the fifth spot, side by side through Malmedy, and they'll head down to Bruxelles. JP, the first side by side battling, dissolving. Now it's going to be James Dowling and Sven LeMay down to turn number 8, and that is LeMay up in the inside, Dowling giving up that spot.
How about that? The first lap of, a 1 hour race, Andrew, and we already have people going side by side on places we didn't expect. And
whoa, that's a crash. 188, Moses Kwai.
He holds the brake, comes back to the grass. So luckily for him, he's not going to take anyone else out. And looks like there wasn't too big of a damage on his car. But that's certainly going to be a struggle as he started, I think, in 10th place. And is now all the way to the back of the grid. As you can see, other drivers heading into looks like Lafayette, and now, well, we already have a few cars exiting Stavelo, Andrew, and, well, that's pretty much a lap already in Spa.
Nearly is, as Elliott Hellier will lead us down to Blanchemont for the first time. And this was always a tricky spot in GT3 cars for me. I'm not so sure how a GTE car will handle it, but it looks like that Corvette is poised for success. And yes, indeed, he'll come down to the bus stop chicane and wrap up lap number 1 with convincing speed. But Terry Crouch not far behind to wrap up this first lap. We could have a good little battle up front.
Certainly could. You can see they're very close. Half a second injured. That could really, be, well, gone by the end of the main straightaway, all the way into the Camel Straight. And we could see a move down there. As you can see, more cars. Looks like we have one Porsche with troubles.
That's Clint Fletcher,
like
004.
Oh, already back down to the pit lane. So that's unfortunate. Looks like he's going to be the first car to come back to the pit lane. First car to get a tow. And you can see a bit of damage to that rear wing engine on the left side. It looks way bent up, so I wonder if he got a hit from someone back.
Yeah, Fletcher with some issues here in his Porsche. I would have to imagine there was contact, or, I mean, you know what, he could have lost it on corner exit or even corner entry or something. It's not at all unheard of. We'll go back and get a replay here from his lap number 1 troubles. And we'll start just with the onboard here for Clint. But I believe the contact is going to come from behind.
You can see on the entry, it looks all okay. He's going to go down the inside. He's going to think about it. He has the car out there, and then when he turns in, yeah, there the damage comes.
That's the 008. That was one of those drivers I had to search for the name for, I believe. Yeah, Christopher in that BMW getting a little bit of contact. And, well, unfortunately dispatching quickly of Clint Fletcher, but with, well, I think not the way he would have wanted to do it, as it looks like we've got a problem for one car. Maybe not. That was maybe just a slow portion for them, but we get back racing. Everybody's fine. Everybody's all good to go, aside from Clint Fletcher. It looks like he's the only car that I see in the pit lane, aside from Ken Nickel, who I'm not sure that he even started this race. We'll see if he did, though. This battle around for the, well, it looks like the 7th spot. Sam Hinchy, Pete Snake, James Dowling, Sven LeBay back into the top 10.
You can see this is a nice little train of 4 Porsches, front nose to tail, Andrew. And looks like we might have a switch up for position, as you can see right there. Gainey, could we see a move down the inside on Blanchimont? Not quite down into turn 17. You know, I think we might see one of those approaching towards the end of the race, but look at that. More runs as we head into the bus stop chicane around the outside. Looks like he's going to be able to get that done even on the first part. Be careful on this
contact.
Make contact in a little bit, and oh, there you go. Unfortunately, he's going to be losing out quite a bit on the inside there, Andrew. And look at how many positions he might lose down into turn 1.
Yeah, Sven went for a bit of a slide. He's now 11th. He was in a battle there for 8th, and he's going to slide back and lose another spot. Here comes Amir Assad up the inside. Michael Thompson there. Oh, and Amir's going to go by, and a save there out of Sven again. He loses spots now all the way back to 15th position. Boy, how things have gone wrong for him, but he gets back going now in an opportunity to, I think, gain some more time back for Lacombe.
Yeah, 2 corners, Andrew. You saw how many positions he lost right there. Yeah, he was as high as 9th, which I think it was on the previous lap. And, well, currently he is down into 15th. So that's really unfortunate. Just 2 pieces of contact, and he lost that much. But you can see, as you mentioned, down the Camel Straight, he gained a lot of that time back on braking, and obviously due to the slipstream. And now he's trying once again to approach this group to hopefully regain those positions that he just lost.
Santinelli, you're going to look up the inside. Correct myself, that's Santinelli. There we go. Looking up the inside of Brandon Waters. That's a battle for the 13th position. Santinelli in a BMW. Waters in a Corvette.
And you can see this is a nice little battle between 2 different manufacturers. So 2 completely different cars, Andrew. Obviously, the BMW being quite massive for a GTE car in the Corvette. Well, being trimmed down, looking similar to, I think, a Ferrari, you can say. And but they're both nose to tail as well. Each car with its strengths and weaknesses. And you can see right here how much the BMW is actually closing in on this tight and twisty bit of Spa. And now approaching, can he get anything on this straightaway? He's currently 0.3 of a second, but looks like the Corvette ahead just got a slightly better exit out of campus. And that's going to carry all the way through Blanchimont into the bus stop.
Staying on board with Santinelli. And starting to lose some time. Amir Assad might have to worry about Brandon Waters here soon, as Waters gets a bit of time on him. Elliot Hellier goes faster at a 2:12.023. And oh my goodness, that is a send from the BMW. Santinelli up the inside of the bus stop chicane. Gets that spot, but will have to let it back by on corner exit. And yeah, I think that's a rightful light flash there from Brandon Waters, who's frustrated with that move. That was really aggressive into that chicane. But you know what? If it's a pass that works, it works, and he's got the position.
Yeah, and somehow he didn't lock up a single tire over there. That was really brave and really good braking control for him. So excellent job. Now he's gonna have to defend on this bar right here. It looks like his exit wasn't
We
the
got a
best
crash.
out of tableau, and it looks like we do have an incident on the first corner on the source, I should say. And looks like we have 3 cars involved, 2 cars involved. One of them is a Porsche, and well, that's an unfortunate start for their lap.
Yeah, a few cars involved in a crash here in La Source. Turn number 1. So ending a lap and beginning a new one, we've got issues. This is the 4 car. We talked about him earlier on. Actually, this is the 56 they gave us. But the 4 also involved of Andrew White. But here's Mike Nickham down into the first corner, deep into the 82 car. They both go for a spin, broadside of the racetrack, and the 82 pulls away early. The 56 backs up, and you can kind of see how all of this happens.
You can see just, I guess, miscoordination from all of them. And the Andrew White, unfortunately, taking a bit of damage to that rear wing and going wide on La Source, but managing to rejoin the racetrack, looks like. But you can just see how, I mean, just a small, I guess, miscommunication on the brakes, you know, just how deep you can go. Sometimes that costs, and you can see right here the hit that he gets is absolutely, oh, he flips, actually. Wow.
What a perspective.
It looks like, I think his Gutierrez crash on Bahrain in 2014 in F1, if you remember. It's eerily similar.
This was really interesting for Andrew White. Glad we had that onboard perspective first. Let's check it out now from the blimp high above Circuit de Spa. And yep, just gets tagged there by the 82 car. And he goes up and over. The 82 being driven by Shireman. Holek Shireman. So White has to take the tow back to the pit lane along with Mike Nickham, and they are both out of this race. Elliott Hellier's still leading. It's nearly 1.2 seconds over Terry Crouch, the advantage, as that Corvette speeds away to a larger and larger lead by the moment. There really isn't much happening inside of the top 10. The closest battle is Sam Hinchy working on Pete Snake. This is for the 7th position. We'll monitor this, but for the moment, let's check out our amateur race leader, Stan Donnet. And, you know, I see the chat happening over on YouTube about whether or not this guy might be a pro after this one, and I would definitely have to imagine that, yeah, eyes are looking to put car 401 in the pro category after this race and before this season begins, because he is quick. And you can see there is an odd orange 401. I hadn't even gotten to this part yet. The blue numbers on your ticker, or I guess blue number blocks, if you will, are your pros, and the orange are your amateurs. I think that's kind of been relatively self-explanatory, but for those that might not know, well, now you do. And you can see that random orange 401, well, that is Stan Donnet up in the top 10. Clearly more speed than any of the other amateur competitors in this field today.
Yeah, 12 seconds ahead of his closest competitor, Andrew. That's well, that's a pace right there. You can see his closest, the number 48, down in P14. That's going to be Brandon Waters. So a really big gap between these two. So I guess that's one of the good sides, you know, Andrew, also having a preseason race, you know, being able to nail down the pace of each competitor. And you can see there the 401 simply, you know, running well, almost in the top 5. You know, he's keeping up pace with the top 5. So a really strong place, and you can see from Brandon Waters behind, you can see they're all kind of closer together. And yes, this certainly, I guess, will, as you mentioned, raise some eyebrows in the race direction to make sure everybody is in their correct classes and can, I guess, correctly compete with others.
Waters here is about a half second behind Sven LeBay and about a second or so ahead of Sancinelli in car 57. We saw that battle with these guys before, so Waters getting that position back away from Sancinelli. Sancinelli giving that spot back in the BMW. There aren't many BMWs in this field, so I do wonder if anybody might know kind of how the BOP sits with these cars right now in iRacing. I didn't realize the BMW would be this far off. It seems like clearly the preferred platform is something that is mid-engine, like the Porsche, the Ferrari, the Corvette. We're seeing a lot of those this evening, especially the Porsches and the Corvettes. Not many BMWs, and not a single Ford GT in this race this evening.
Which is really unfortunate. That lack of Ford GTs kind of, you know, makes me a little bit sad. Obviously, you know, having all of these different manufacturers makes up for it, as we have one small mistake ahead, and this is going to be interesting, Andrew, as we approach Rouge and Radion, they're not going to go side by side, but you can see there Moses has a kind of a good run. I think he's letting off the gas a little bit. You can see there a dab of brakes. That's going to kill his momentum out of Radion, but unfortunately, that's going to kind of rob us, I think, of a battle as well. As you can see there, the gap increasing a little bit, but that was close to having the first side-by-side battle up Eau Rouge.
This is 21st and 22nd. Actually, scratch that. 22nd, 23rd, and there is the pass. Moses Klein goes on by Alice Mom into Lacombe. And I have a feeling there are a few names we'll have to get a little bit of history on before COTA next week, but it's still good to get this introduction and learn some of these drivers ahead of the season regardless. Some more battles back here in the rear of the field. Joe Osmolski working on Brandon Carl. This is for 26th position. Carl, a pro driver, Osmolski, an amateur driver. So this is where we see that mix of kind of battles that we see in these kind of multi-class driver races, we'll say. And we see this a lot here on Pit Stop TV with the North American Racing League and other leagues we've covered. Now we're seeing it with the Simpit Road Racing Series. It's very common these days to have a field of cars that are all in the same, I guess, the same car class, but drivers that are separated by class. And we often see kind of a separation up front where you have a lot of pros out front, then a lot of amateurs, and then there's that kind of mixed portion where you see a lot of both and they battle throughout. It's really interesting to watch those battles of different class drivers go on, and you're seeing here Brendan Carl holding off Osmolski for now, but I feel like that Ferrari is just a little bit better.
It looks like the Ferrari has a bit more pace, and that's, I guess, something interesting as well, Andrew, because we can really see sometimes, amateur drivers, especially when they shine on those tracks that they love, when they have a strong pace, they're going to be up there in the top 5 or even top 10, they're going to be up there and they're going to distinguish themselves from the rest of the class. And that's something that I really like seeing, from the amateur side as well, having these, the two classes on the same class of car, something, makes, those special moments, those small special moments in races really special for those set drivers. But meanwhile, you can see now this has evolved into a 3-car battle, and it looks like that Corvette might be having a run on the Porsche just ahead, Andrew, as we have, looks like a switch up for position up ahead, down into the chicane, and looks like that BMW went a bit wide. Be careful in the rejoin. Oh, almost 2 BMWs coming together.
And Sancinelli's still trying to regain control of his car, and he does. A couple of BMWs there. Ola made the pass into Lacombe and had to give the spot back after going off track. And now Sven is off course in the 42, and that is a big issue for him as he has parked it in the, in the runoff there outside of Bruxelles, and he's going to tow.
Looks like a weird mistake to have. Normally you have a small lockup on turn number 8, but nothing that big down into Brussels, so we're gonna have to wait and see. It looks like he's all by himself. He has 1 car behind him, Andrew, so I wonder if it was a bit of contact right there. As you can see, through turn 7, all okay as he head into the downhill braking zone. Does he lock up the tires? Watch the steering wheel. Yes, he
I don't think he locked anything up. He just never made the corner.
Weird, interestingly weird, I guess you can say.
That's one way to put it. Let's go back and check this out for the Get Pole Racing 42 car. Sven started 9th, was running right about in the 9th spot when this happens. And you'll watch him just go clear off track and suddenly park it by us. And, there was no lockup, no tire smoke, nothing. I wonder if maybe there was a hardware issue or something maybe in the real life that he just needed to get away from the sim for a moment and handle. We see that plenty of times. Of course, this, not to break the fourth wall too much, but this is iRacing, this is on a computer, and there is still a real life outside of things that sometimes you have to tend to, and you have to step away from the sim rig, even amidst a broadcasted race. That happens. But this is a battle up Eau Rouge and over Radion for the 8th position. Sam Hinchy hanging on to this spot over Johnny Alford currently, but Alford's looking good.
Yeah, he's looking good. He's going to have a run, and he's going to have the inside down to Lacombe, Andrew. Can he outbrake the Porsche, the number 93 out alongside of him? Yes, he will. The Porsche backs up a little bit, trying to get a better run on exit, but looks like that won't be doing him any favors. Looks like the Corvette got a nice distance, and that was a nice move down the inside, Andrew. We haven't seen too many of those, but Sam Hinchy, as you can see there on the Porsche, losing 1 spot. I wonder if that was a bad exit out of turn number 1 that caused all of this, but right now, unfortunately, he's going to sit down in 9th place, and hopefully he can keep up the Corvette ahead and try to regain that position.
A good point from Wolf out in the chat, Major Wolf, saying that maybe it was the internet there for Sven, potentially just a lot of... Well, we didn't see him blinking, but maybe he had blinking on his end, and it was starting to lose quality and just got out of the way to avoid any kind of issue. That's certainly a possibility. Down to Pouan, Sancinelli in the 15th spot, still chasing Ola. I would love to know if somebody can educate me here on how to pronounce this last name. By all means, I would love the heads up, because I don't even know where to begin with that. I know I see the umlaut above the A, but I really just... Svarnkist, or Sarnquist? Maybe. That might be in the ballpark. I'm not sure if it's the right league, though, for Ola, as he is in car 13, position 14, and got by Sancinelli recently. Ola, though, a pro, Sancinelli, an amateur, and Sarnquist. I'm going to have to try and get that one down, but Sarnquist, here we go.
Yeah, and what a striking livery. I love that the M Racing livery. I guess that strikes back to the M1 race car. I'm not quite sure, but I certainly do like, a classic manufacturer livery. And he's certainly, embracing the BMW spirit. But as you mentioned, he's trying to defend it. He's currently in 14th place, and he's certainly under a lot of pressure, Andrew. He can not only see one pair of headlights, but there is also, I think, one more behind him who's certainly applying that bit more pressure, to make sure he doesn't make a mistake. And, obviously punching the air in front of these guys, you're certainly going to be losing out on a bit of top speed. And once you exit La Source, it's all flat out all the way to Lacombe. So this is certainly a nerve-wracking moment when you just keep watching the relative in your mirrors to make sure the car is not closing in too much into striking range.
Here we go, a car in the pit lane. It is a Corvette as well. Alice headed down to the safety of the pits and headed down either for a penalty or for service. And it looks like it's a penalty, as the Corvette will go straight on through car 194, potentially hitting the incident penalty. And I'm glad we made note of this before the broadcast, because if you hit 12 incidents in this race, that is a pass-through penalty. If you hit 22 incidents in this race, that is a pass-through penalty. If you hit 25 incidents in this race, you are disqualified from the event, and you have to try again next week. So we could already be seeing that come into effect for some of these drivers, as car 194 had to come down the pit lane and serve what seems to be a pass-through penalty.
Yeah, and I think just less than 20 minutes into racing as well, Andrew. That's quite worrying. Obviously, a few of those could be, car contact from the start, where obviously things are a bit more hectic. But now he only has a buffer of 10 incident points for the remaining of 40 minutes to avoid another pass-through, and 13 to avoid a possible disqualification. So it's worrying, if in 20 minutes he already burned through 12. So he's going to have to keep himself on the track limits throughout the rest of this race. But meanwhile, we can see the Corvette right here pouncing a Porsche, and looks like that's going to be the 710 of Johnny Alford, just chasing down the number 666 of Petty Snake on the Porsche. And you can see there the Corvette, Andrew, really pushing the limits.
In the gearbox here of Pete Snake looking back at Johnny Alford. And this is one heck of a shot, I think, as this Corvette puts on some offensive tactics. 39 minutes to go. I want to mention that this broadcast, of course, brought to you by our partners here at Pit Stop TV, Whiplash Media SimCams, SimRapMarket.com, and Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine. And the Simpit Road Racing Series brought to you by, well, of course, the Simpit.com, Gomez Sim Industries, and Get Closer Racing. As here's a battle down to Lacombe. This is for 7th, and that Corvette looks to the right side, and I think that's going to be an easy pass made.
Oh, just like he did 2 laps ago, Andrew.
Yep.
Wasn't he? Yep, so a carbon copy, and he just gets another move done.
Whoa!
As we have one Ferrari sitting on the Apex, and that's the number 52.
Eric Hardiman.
Wow, so that came out of nowhere, and looks like he's going to be a lap down, isn't he, already?
And he's going to rejoin now ahead of some other drivers, and this is, I think, ahead of Sarnquist. And yeah, this is right in front of Ola, who is a pro driver. This is, you're starting to hold up some really good drivers now. You don't, I don't agree with that. Hardiman now 1 lap down, trying to get back onto the track. And he goes off there, and now he'll let these drivers go by. And
that's really going to hurt.
Oh, that was tough. And 3 wide now down to Pouan. He's got to give this spot up.
And he does on the
Oh,
last moment, and Ola almost lost the position. I'm not pretty sure if you saw that, Andrew, but he was side by side for a moment. I was worried that he was going to lose the position for just being, I guess, cautious, but luckily he didn't. But certainly brought that whole pack much closer together, and now that two BMW battle turns into a four-car battle.
let's check this issue out for Hardiman in car 52. And, admittedly, this is still the preseason, so still time to work these things out, but Hardman just misses Lacombe, it looks like, drives out wide onto the grass and kind of panics, I think. Oh, my goodness.
You saw him braking to trying to avoid rejoining on the racetrack, but obviously no ABS means that, the tires are just going to skid through the grass, and then he sees a pocket of air right here, takes a bit to, I guess, get going, and then he gets going, but unfortunately you can see there's a pack of cars approaching him, and unfortunately he does not let them all go on this small straightaway right here.
Yeah, he just needed to let these drivers go in Bruxelles, and instead he battled and got back down to the racing line, and that's a big no-no. Hopefully he takes note of that and learns from that. That's all we can ask, really, when a driver makes a mistake, is just hopefully they learn from it. Mistakes will be made. Nobody's perfect. That's a big thing to remember in online racing as a whole, is nobody's perfect. Mistakes will be made. We've all made them. As Ola has lost some positions, is now in the 20th position. Let's check out what happened to him then. Oh, this is going to be a really interesting one, and it looks like it'll come from this battle potentially with Sancinelli. We'll watch this down to the bus stop, JP.
So you can see right here that four-car pack is really close together. He's going to defend the inside of the bus stop, and I wonder if he's going to just overshoot a corner. He does, and you saw there, I think it was a hit of a rear lockup entry because the car just kind of danced on itself, and then he just comes to a stop, interestingly enough, I think to avoid any possible slowdown penalties. But yeah, unfortunately, he just carried way too much speed and ended up losing 3 positions, I think 4, down into the braking zone. You can see the car right there just dancing a little bit, and then he just unfortunately has to let off the brake and correct itself. So really unfortunate for Ola.
The final car running currently is Christian Clark in position 28. And that is a Corvette number 37. Her position 28. Alice Mom currently in the 27th spot. David Serator in 26th. Joe Osmolsky in 25th position. Shireman in 24th. Batista in 23rd. Carl in 22nd. Ken Estep in 21st. And Ola now rounds out the top 20. Just behind this guy, Dustin Orbelo. Looks like we have a fan of his checking in this evening. Oberlo 3 seconds behind his nearest competitor, that is Moses Kwai, in the 18th position. Not many battles on track currently, but that will, of course, change. Actually, here we go. David Payne, Eric Sancinelli. This is down to the bus stop through Blanchimont, and that Porsche was all over that curbing. This will be interesting.
Yeah, that's going to hurt him, and you can see there the BMW might look down the inside, not quite, maybe lining up for a move down into turn number 1. You can see taking a wider line. No, comes into the pit lane, Andrew, so this could be the first of, I think, the schedule stops we might see, or I wonder if it was a penalty as we have more cars coming in the pit lane as well.
I would imagine, yeah, this is going to be for service here for Eric Sancinelli. He's been pretty quick today, kind of in that mid-pack range, so he will come in, get service. We've got the pit timer up on your screen. The time on the left is the pit lane time as a whole. The time on the right is the pit box time. So we'll see when Sancinelli is able to leave his box and get an idea of how long these stops may take. 15.25 seconds to 15 and a quarter. And he will run down to the exit of pit lane. We'll see what the overall time is. It's going to be about 35 seconds, maybe, 36 and a quarter, just about. And the Frito Esport number 57 will head back out on track and try to get back going. Position 26 now after the pit stop.
So now we have a good idea of how long it takes on the stop, Andrew. Obviously, this is going to be our benchmark for the rest of the field. Obviously, this time could go up and it could go down, and we could see drivers trying to optimize the full pit lane as well. But at least now we have the benchmark. Unfortunately, robbed us of a battle, but at least we have that set right there. As I think we're looking to the 019 Andrew, who, well, doesn't have anyone in front of him, which is really, really good, isn't it?
Yeah, checking back into our race leader, Elliot Hellier. He has led every single lap of this race. It's 11, make it 12 across the start-finish line this time by. Started first, currently first, high of first, low of first. That is the stat line you want to have at the end of the day. Hopefully it holds for him. As a little bit of right front lock up that time at a turn 1, but No harm, no foul through Lasource. And that's a common thing, I think, to carry the right front, locking up just a little bit into Lasource. That's part of that corner. As he heads up Eau Rouge and Radion, 33 minutes to go. This has been a good little audition for these guys, and I think a good, well, look what we're going to have for a 10-race season coming up. Let's take a look actually one more time at the season schedule. What stands out other than Le Mans that we talked about earlier? What stands out to you as one of the best, I guess, best rounds that you look forward to?
I think the one that I look forward the most is Fuji. I think, that massive front straightaway, the corners, the high-speed corners, that's going to be interesting to see how these cars will react. But other than that, Andrew, I think the one I'm looking forward the most, I think is going to be either Watkins Glen or Monza, interestingly enough. Oh, no, Red Bull Ring, I should say, not Monza, Red Bull Ring. I think going to Red Bull Ring and then Circuit de la Sarthe is going to be an interesting change from a really short racetrack to an absolutely massive one, but I think that's going to be certainly fun. But how about you? Which one stands out the most for you?
I think Fuji stands out as an odd round out for us. We've never covered Fuji before, so that'll be exciting for us to get that track on Pit Stop TV for the first time, along with Le Mans. Otherwise, I do look at potentially Austria or Monza being one of the more exciting rounds, potentially for this series. So I'm excited to see how those go. And yeah, it sounds like Fuji is without the chicane. So, just a lot of interesting tracks, I think, on this schedule. And I'm glad that we have this schedule, obviously heavily influenced by the iRacing schedule, but still very, very cool to see this list of tracks on a schedule for us here at Pit Stop TV.
Absolutely, and obviously, lining itself up, as you mentioned, heavily influenced by the iRacing schedule allows, I guess, these drivers to have a bit more practice, doesn't it? So I guess it invites better racing on itself as well.
And speaking of the drivers, we have a few of them chiming in over on YouTube chat saying, let's see, let's try and recap this. So from the bottom to the top, Alterman is saying the race he's most worried about is Coda, round number 1 at Circuit of the Americas. And just before that, we'll show it here, I've been saying that it should be lit on fire. Well, it's going to be lit on fire, I'm sure, because it's going to be hot. But it is quite a good racetrack. I used to think the opposite, but in recent years, I've really come around on it, especially with NASCAR going there, seeing the kind of racing that Austin can provide. It is a fantastic racing circuit with the right cars and the right drivers, of course. Fuji without the chicane, Major Wolf thinks that's interesting. I do as well. So interesting to get some thoughts from the drivers in YouTube chat itself about what this schedule holds for each of them. But let's bring that down and actually talk about somebody who just left the pit lane, Michael Thompson in car 314. 13.27 seconds, so JP, that is 2 seconds faster than Sancinelli, and as such, he has leapfrogged the 57 car and is in front for that position.
So you can see he was 2 seconds quicker on while getting his refuel, Andrew, but he wasn't 2 seconds quicker on the overall pit timer.
He was actually, oh my goodness, who was that? Going for a spin. It was the 46. Wait, the graphic to pull up. That is David, I know it's here somewhere, David Sarator in car 46 out of New England. He will head down to the pit lane, it looks like. But worth mentioning, Michael Thompson's time, actually, it does come in, well, I guess a second and a half quicker. Maybe that's what you were going for there. So didn't get the full extent out of the time he gained.
Yeah, absolutely. So it means there's still time right there to, I guess, optimize, the full pit lane, to get a bit more time out. It looks like the 57 did that a bit better overall. But, yeah, you can see they were nose to tail, Andrew, after that scare down into the bus stop. But, yeah, I'm sure they're still going to, rejoin the battle really soon. And as you can see here, a few other cars, tagging, it looks like a bit of the grass right there for this BMW, the number 13. And it's just going to be a matter of time now before these guys hop into the pit lane and we have that full, I guess, busy road we're kind of used to on NARL, aren't we?
Yeah, pit lane is going to get busy in the next few moments. Just a little ways past halfway. So the beginning portion of this race brought to you by Gomez Sim Industries, and from here on out, brought to you by Get Closer Racing, Accelerate Esports. 28 minutes and change to go. Elliott Hellier still leading. It has an 8-second gap back to Terry Crouch. Jan Christianen in the third spot, Randall White fourth, and one car going a lap down, and that looks like a Corvette, and yes, it was. It was David Saratora, fresh out of the pit lane, giving that lap up and going one lap down. The only driver currently running that is one lap down in the 28th spot. Hardiman on back are all out of this race. Hardiman, I'm going to say Schultheis, LeVay, Nickum, White, Fletcher, Nickel, and Martinez all out of this one on lap 15 as we stand. There is a slight battle shaping up in the top 10. This is going to be Sam Hinchey chasing down Pete Snake, a couple of Porsches in the back end of the top 10. How do you figure this one works out?
I think a Porsche is going to end up ahead of this battle, Andrew. I'm not quite sure about you, but they're getting closer together. Obviously, they were both overtaken by the Corvette of, I think it was Johnny Alford, wasn't it? Quite a few laps ago. Well, looks like right now the number 666, and then, the number 93 is catching up to the 666. So that's going to be interesting to see where, the difference in pace of these guys come from, because they're running the same car. The setup might be a bit more different, and the way the driver tackles, obviously the corners will be a bit more different as well. So it's going to be interesting to see where each Porsche shines in comparison to the other.
Going on board with Hinchey. Started 6th, currently in 9th, so he's lost a few spots, but he's in the lowest position that he has been all day. So I wonder if he's trending in the wrong direction. Maybe the tire's coming back to him a little bit. Very interesting here that he's kind of fallen back, but stabilized in this 9th position, chasing down Pete Snake, or at least trying to keep up with the 666. Just inside the top 10. Sean Cole, it looks like, is close to David Payne. The battle we'll want to check out, so we'll go to the mid-teens, if you will. This is the battle for 14th position, taking a look at Sean Cole in 15th, and David Payne, that white Porsche, in the 14th spot. These guys very close.
Very close, and we could see a switch up depending on how confident they are on their cars. We could see a driver probably making a move down into the bus stop. Looks like it's not going to be close enough this time around, Andrew, but obviously, part of racing is just shaping up that move, building the blocks to make sure you get that move done and dusted in one swoop. And it looks like it won't be on this lap, but you can see right here, just on the brakes, we can see quite a bit of difference. And, looks like the building blocks won't be too close. Don't do like Kimi Räikkönen and hit that inside barrier, but looks like number 39 does the entry beautifully. And now, Andrew, we're going to see how long he's going to take on the pit stop itself and on the whole pit lane.
So Sean Cole comes into the pit lane, position 16 now. He'll lose a few more, of course, back down to about the 22nd position or so. And it looks like he may be joined. Nope, that was a false alarm, it looks like, for Olaz. He will continue on, but car 39 on the pit lane, Sean Cole, a bit of a long stop, 17, 18, 19. Oh boy, this is not what he wants. 21 seconds in the pit box itself.
Definitely not what he wants, Andrew. That was a lot of time loss, and you can see right here on the whole pit lane, a 40.7. That's really going to set him back. So that battle, he was close. I mean, if the other driver is able to at least, manage an average stop, he's still going to be way, way ahead, at least 6-7 seconds ahead. So that's really not a great stop for Sean Cole. So now he's going to have to get all that time back, Andrew, right here on the racetrack.
Yeah, not at all what Sean Cole needed. He's now 23rd spot. Oh boy, 4, 5, maybe 6 seconds behind Sanchinelli and others. That is a tough break for Sean to have to swallow. 41 seconds nearly in the pit lane as a whole, so that's going to be a very, very tough one to come back from. And as we've seen with North American Racing League events and kind of our real gauge as to the state of road racing on iRacing, it looks like these guys up front are going to try and go deep in this race. So what that means is we're going to go Pit Stop TV side by side here for a couple of moments, get a couple of messages from our partners here at the channel, and we'll be right back to carry you on down to the finish here for the final preseason round of the Simpit Road Racing Series. The final preseason round for the Simpit Road Racing Series has just over 20 minutes to go from Spa as you're watching a battle for the 6th spot. In fact, we just saw something we'll go back and get a replay of, but we're so glad that you're joining us here at Pit Stop TV for this round today. Again, at Spa, such a historic, such an important road racing circuit to all of motorsport. Let's check out this quick replay that says Stand On It, battling with Johnny Alford. Johnny has taken the spot away. This is for 6th.
So obviously the 401 in the Porsche, Andrew, he is still leading the amateur class, isn't he? You know, just on a class of his own, essentially. And you can see there the Corvette just inching up ahead, closer and closer by the lap. So something completely just clicked right.
Oh, there was contact there.
A bit of contact right there on entry, looks like. And looks like the number 401 might let the Corvette go. But either way, something completely clicked right, that hasn't it? I mean, just going qualifying, looks like the pace wasn't there, but on race, I mean, he's just catching everybody and just passing everybody like it's no big deal. And you can see right there, just carrying a bit more speed, a slight tap on the rear end, but they both continue facing the right direction.
So there's that replay of the contact. Let's see what happens here on the source. Stand On It gives this position up to Johnny Alford and promptly flashes him after the fact. We saw that as we were coming back from Pit Stop TV side by side. So Stan, none too pleased.
But luckily for him, I don't think that damage is going to be too bad, is it, Andrew? I think that's going to be, at best, just a few tenths of a second of optional repairs. And it looks like Christian Clark as well, running a really long pit stop, Andrew. 40 seconds stopped, and I think this might be due to damage as he exited with a 43.57 stop. That is not ideal, is it? And Kevin unfortunately overshoots his pit box.
Yeah, Kevin Burrows in deep, has to back up and make it back into his box. That's always a cardinal sin, if you will. Just one of those easy mistakes to make, especially without ABS, and even Sam Minchie slides a little bit but stays within the bounds, and he will now get service to his number 93.
And you can see, I think the magical number that we saw so far is 13.75, if I'm not mistaken. So, looks like that was beaten by Sam, 13.42 and a 32 seconds. So I think that's the fastest we've had so far, Andrew. And that was a really good stop. David Payne right now, let's see how long he's going to be on his stop. You see that the front tire is locking up as he stops. And he's probably going to be aiming again for that 13-14 second stop to make sure he optimizes the fuel and rejoins as quickly as possible.
Payne heads back out on track. Or will be heading back out on track here in just one moment, as our leaders are yet to pit. The highest pitting driver so far is Kevin Burrows, now in the 10th position after cycling back onto the racetrack. And oh my goodness, car 36. Amir Assad. That is, well, he's in the sod there on the grass. That is not where you want to be.
No, absolutely not. And you can see a bit of damage to that rear wing as well. So obviously he hit the wall, I would assume, or someone hit him on that rear part of that Porsche, and that was a tricky place to be, Andrew. The headlights kind of got him covered, I guess you can say, and you can see it right here as he approaches turn number 8. He's going to be all smooth. He goes a bit wide. He's going to try to get a late apex. He cannot really hit, but then loses the car. That was a massive hit, actually.
Bigger than we thought, for sure. That is no contact to, I guess, shake your head at or wag a finger at. But we do have pit stops now up front. Elliott Hellier, we're going to cycle back onto the racetrack. Let's check out the total pit lane time for Elliott, our race leader. 32.01, 12.9 in the box. That's pretty darn quick, about the fastest we've seen, as Jan Christian will work out of the pit lane in just one moment. Randall White down there as well. And Jan will pull away in his Porsche. Randall White now pulls away. Stand On It into the pit lane. Johnny Alford as well. And, somebody went deep in the box. I think that was James Dowling. No, here comes James Dowling. Pete Snake in. Snake will exit, or no, there's Snake. Alford will exit, 13.37. Stand On It, 12.875. Here comes Flo Doms.
Because he's going to be, I hope, around that margin as well. 11.98. I think that's the first sub-12 stop that we've had. And so a really good right there. He's going to be, I think, right on the edge of fuel as well. And this looks like to be that cutoff line. That cutoff lap, obviously having a near 7-kilometer lap. It's not something that you can extend that much. And you can see here Dustin on the number 88 also coming up to his pit box, gets the car nice and stopped, and now he's going to get it serviced. So this looks like the lap that everybody's hopping in, except the number 59, Terry Crouch. I think he's the only car not to stop.
That would be correct. As he works around, it looks like Stoffolo, and he will head back to the front stretch this time. And yeah, he's on the back end of his lap. You'd have to think he has to pit this time, JP. I doubt he goes further. Clearly saved a little bit of fuel to try and extend this run, but I see no way that he goes any further.
No, absolutely not. You know, I think on Red Bull Ring you can expect 2 more laps, but on tracks like this, there's absolutely no way you can extend 14 kilometers more than your competition, especially when you're running, you know, this big engine. And you can see it right there. He comes into the pit lane. He's going to try to optimize it. Unfortunately, he's going to be losing the lead. He's going to lead, I think, 2 laps maybe. But yeah, that's going to be about it. The number 59 right here dives into his pit box, locks the front tires, overshoots a little bit.
Now you have to wonder if Yan can make up the time to Terry Crouch. This is going to be close. 11 seconds behind 10, 9, 8 seconds, 7, 6, as there's a fast stop at 12.52, but the pit lane time hurt a little bit. Yan is, let's see, there's Yan, headed into La Source now, so not quite going to pass him by any means, about 4 seconds back still, but Yan suddenly now with a new opportunity maybe to chase down Terry Crouch, the gap a little bit shorter.
Yeah, absolutely. He has him on his sides. He can see the headlights up ahead. So now he has a target for the remaining 14 minutes of racing, and he definitely wants to get that position. As you can see right here, a 3-car battle exiting the bus stop chicane, heading into Stavolo, turn number 1. And it looks like 3 Porsches as well. Andrew, you can confirm if I'm not going crazy. Yeah, it looks like 3 Porsches going nose to tail, and we're going to have to wait and see which one is going to finish ahead of the other.
Yeah, back into the top 10 here. Sam Hinchey, Pete Snake, James Dowling. Positions 8 through 10. With 14 minutes and a bit of change to go. There aren't many battles on the racetrack, as it looks like Brandon Waters has just had some kind of an issue. Let's see if that was a toe, potentially, or if he has dropped out of this race due to connection. And it looks like it may have been connection. We'll find the moment that he left the racetrack. Here's Waters. And it looks like he has lost connection. Sam Hinchey potentially as well. My goodness, we were just talking about Sam in the top 10, battling up there in 8th spot. Let's see if we can find what happens here to Sam Hinchey.
You can see he's through Blanchimont. Is he just going to blink? Cowley happened to Brandon Waters. And looks like it might have been the case. So, Andrew, I think we have 2 possible DNFs in.
Well, so this is developing, actually. Hinchey is still in the race, but he is blinking a lot. You can see, there he is. There he's not. This is live now. So this is back live with Sam Hinchey. He is having a lot of problems ahead of Pete Snake and the rest of these guys. That is going to get on the nerves of guys like Pete Snake and James Dowling. And it looks like they may have just passed him this time, finally. We'll see if maybe that changes. Maybe he's able to come back. But that, yeah. Oh, there he is again. And you can see he's gained a little bit of time out of this, maybe. This has got to be so frustrating. You know it is for Pete and James.
Oh, absolutely, Andrew. That's distracting as well. You know, having that car blinking, you're not quite sure, you know, how it's going to evolve. So it's a really tricky situation to be in right here. And you can see just you're closing in, but you don't really know exactly where the car is. And if that car just reappears in the middle of the corner, span out, I mean, you're not going to have a lot of reaction time.
While this story develops, once again, thanks so much for joining us here this evening from Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Glad to have you watching, as I'm sure this is the first time a lot of you guys specifically are seeing us here at Pit Stop TV. That is if you are, of course, from the Simpit Road Racing Series. If you are, make sure to drop a like, maybe even subscribe. That would be amazing if you did so. And, well, we are here for the full season of racing with the Simpit Road Racing Series GTE cars. This time around, mirrored up with the European Sprint Series schedule on iRacing. That means we're headed to Circuit of the Americas next week. Let's actually recap this series schedule for just a moment as we'll continue to watch this developing story in the background. But Austin next week, Circuit of the Americas, followed up by Fuji, Watkins Glen, Road America, and Sebring for the front half, then Monza, Red Bull Ring, Le Mans, Daytona, and Silverstone for the back half. Very exciting, I think, slate of races Again, rounds that stick out to me, like we've talked about, Fuji and Le Mans, definitely. I think Red Bull Ring and Monza are going to be exciting, but I saw somebody mention Sebring that I kind of glossed over before, and yeah, Sebring, I think, is going to be rather interesting with these cars. Of course, those bumps into the heavy braking zones of turn 1, turn 3, turn 7, those stick out to me, and even Sunset, those bumps are going to unsettle these race cars, and without ABS, it's going to make it that much more challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a certain challenge, Andrew, running that not smooth pavement with no anti-lock braking system is certainly going to be a tricky challenge for these guys. The one that is going to certainly come out on top is the one that has the most practice, the one who's going to be able to modulate the brakes much better. Then obviously Road America, you have a few spots like that as well that really get the wheels locking up. And the rest of the schedule, I mean, it looks fantastic. Even Coda, obviously, I guess we glossed over that a little bit. The season opener, such a fantastic race course. Tricky if you're running a single monitor, but it's still such, a nice track to get that first sector right, to nail each and every single apex. And I think it's going to be a brilliant season opener for this amazing season of racing that we're going to have.
It all begins next Sunday, October the 2nd. This is the final preseason round. But it begins next Sunday, October 2nd, 2022, and continues on through December 4th, 2022 at Silverstone. Once again, glad to have you joining us. Thanks to our partners here with the Simpit Road Racing Series. Of course, the Simpit.com, Gomez Sim Ministries, and Get Closer Racing, Accelerate Esports. A big thank you to our partners here at Pit Stop TV as well. Whiplash Media SimCams, SimRepMarket.com, and Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, all doing so much for us here at Pit Stop TV and allowing us to bring you this coverage of today's racing. Not much happening inside the top 10. James Dowling, though, still close to Pete Snake, and it looks like finally Sam Hinchey no longer a part of this. Oh, maybe, yeah, no, he's no longer in this group. So these guys able to battle alone now for 8th and 9th position. Flo Doms now moves into the top 10 with that. And your second place car, Stan Donnet, continues to lead an amateur. Your second place car in amateur is going to be David Payne in car 73 as he heads up the Kemmel Straight and to Lacombe, chasing Moses Quay and well ahead of Sean Cole. Third place, here we go, this is a great battle. Third place in AM is Eric Sanchinelli, who is working on Sean Cole.
And you can see right here, he might have a run and he might have an opportunity. No, down the chicane, not quite close enough. But you can see right there, Andrew, he started in 22nd place. He's already up to 15th. And, he has one more car in his sight. So this has been an excellent comeback race. And obviously, he's chasing Sean Cole, which we know had an unfortunate stop early on in the day. And that really, I guess, set him back quite a little bit. He also made quite a few positions, though. Started 19th and is currently in 14th place. But now has a mirror full of a BMW right behind him. He needs to hang on to all this pressure because there's only 8 minutes left of racing. I think that should equate to around 4 laps of racing. So time is running out.
Sanchinelli now falling back a little bit, nearly 1 second now behind Sean Cole for the 14th position. They are in different classes, but of course battling for positions on the racetrack just like any other. And, actually, I was going to say, Sean Cole does have a long pit stop, 21.4 seconds. And we saw that when it happened, JP. It turns out it looks like he took a full tank of fuel. And that would certainly do it to you. A full tank of fuel will definitely slow you down a little bit. So, realistically, he maybe lost a couple of positions to David Payne and Moses Quay. In a preseason round, though, you can have those kind of mistakes. You have a mulligan for once. You don't usually get that in races.
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily for him, this is not going to count for points. And obviously, having a full tank, you're not only going to lose time with the pit stop itself, but throughout the remaining of the races, everybody has a lighter car. It's a few tenths of a second quicker. Unfortunately for him, this happened. Luckily for him, it's not an official round, I guess you can say, that counts for points and all that sort of stuff. So, as you mentioned, he can iron these mistakes out, and hopefully by the next round, he's going to be full on form and, nailing those pit stops.
And again, if you're just joining us or joined us more recently, the ticker, of course, does just show the first initial and the class badge. We'll work with Terry Crouch and the admins here at the Simpit Road Racing Series to get that ironed out before next week at Circuit of the Americas. It's just a matter of how the names are formatted inside of the league in iRacing. So we'll pass that along to Terry, and I'm sure get that worked out by next Sunday at Circuit of the Americas. But for now, it's Elliot Hellier leading over Terry Crouch and Jan Christianen. Randall White, Kevin Burrows, the rest of your top 5. Johnny Alford wraps up a portion of 6 pros atop the scoring pylon. Stan Don at 7th. Then 3 more pros, Pete Snake, James Dowling, and Flo Doms. Let's check out, actually, our amateur race leader, Stan Don. Let's go on board.
So I can kind of learn of how everything is going right for the 401, Andrew, kind of follow his footstep. This is certainly going to be a good insight for the rest of the amateur. The whole class itself, if they rewatch the stream, is going to be quite a valuable insight as well. But you can see here, just from the pit stop, you can see it's all smooth inputs. There's nothing too rude. He's not unsettling the car. No, he's just being smooth, as you can see right here, as close as you can possibly get to that barrier, and just letting the car drift out wide naturally, and nothing being done to scrub off speed, just being natural and just being smooth to his car. And you can see the result of that. It's he's way clear of second place on his class. He's, I think right now, looks like 44 seconds clear. That is a big gap, isn't it?
Yeah, it's around that. David Payne, second place in amateur competition. Yeah, 44 seconds, depending on when you look at it, behind the amateur leader of Stan Donnet. So I think Stan likely headed up to pro after this one and before the season actually begins, but that is not official word by any means, so we'll see if that is the case by next race. Well, first race at Dakota. It's not often we have a round 0 on our broadcast doc, but that's the case today. Round 0, if you will. Kind of interesting. It works out that way, but glad to be here and getting, again, this kind of rehearsal, this kind of audition round at Spa to get a few things ironed out, a few things worked out before the season officially begins and points begin to be tracked here for the Simpit Road Racing Series. And of course, once there are point standings, we'll take you through all of the different battles for pro and amateur through the top 10 of each class, and make sure you keep up to date with those standings through our broadcasts here on the channel. Not much happening on track in the last 5 minutes of action here at JP. Things have really spread out. I will say Terry Crouch starting to hit some lap traffic. He has had one quiet race, 4 seconds still ahead of Yang Christianen, but 17 seconds behind our race leader, Elliot Hellier. A very lonely race for both of these guys up front.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a bit of separation on the first few laps. Terry was still a bit close to the number 019, but nowhere near enough to obviously keep up. And unfortunately for him, you mentioned it's a bit of a lonely race, just hitting your marks essentially, just making sure you don't do any mistakes, following your relative, following what you have previously set for your race. And he just did that perfectly. Unfortunately, not in the pace of Eric, but it's still a very, very good race for him, for Elliot, I should say. But it's still a very, very good race for Terry. And Elliot, I think it was a pinpoint perfect race, Andrew. We didn't see a single mistake on him. I think he didn't even break a sweat. He's just naturally been quick. And that Corvette seems to be on point in this race course, which is really, really nice to see.
It is nice to see a Corvette speeding away to victory lane this evening. 3 minutes to go, so nothing is guaranteed for Elliott. He can always hit a bump in the road here, but it's looking pretty darn solid for the driver out of the UK. And what's pretty special about that, JP, is that, as we've mentioned a few times, this is our first time covering GTE cars on the channel. So for a Corvette to go straight to victory lane, I think that'd be pretty special. That'd be pretty fitting, I think.
Yeah, it would certainly be amazing to see. We haven't seen this, obviously, on Pit Stop TV ever, and would be really cool to see that, I guess, European dominance, just being broken over on the first round. But it's not really the first round, but you do get the gist. But Elliot certainly doing a fantastic job. And Andrew, I think we're going to have the white flag, or did he just cross with enough time to make it 2 to go?
That is a fantastic question. I don't see a white flag waving anywhere, but you know what? Let's go to Terry Crouch's perspective. When he comes around to the flag stand, we may just see it. Watch over on the right side. Left side, actually, yes. White flag is out for these drivers. Sometimes iRacing is weird about the way they consider that white flag. So yes, white flag is out, presented by Whiplash Media Simcams here at Circuit de Spa Francorchamps. There we go. As we head down the Kemmel Straight with Elliot Hellier. No competition in sight, and really, there is no battling on this circuit at all right now. It's just drivers trying to get by lapped cars and hang on for this final lap of racing. It's interesting how this worked out. A lot of battles early and it strung out. Usually we see things string out, and then we have a lot of battles late with road races, so maybe it'll swing back that way next week at Circuit of the Americas. But Elliott Hellier, about a half a lap away from a final preseason race victory, and pretty well done, I'd say, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. 19 seconds, almost clear of second place, Andrew. That's certainly something to be proud of at the end of a 1-hour race. Has everything under control. Could have stopped pushing, I guess, a long time ago and just, kept up the pace, but decided to, I guess, push a little bit more and extend that. And you can see just how in tune he is. The car, every single apex being hit. The car doesn't seem to be bothered at all by any inputs, which is really, really good. So an excellent race for the 019. And if everything goes well on this last sector, Andrew, he's certainly going to be going on to a well-deserved victory.
So Elliott Hellier down to Blanchimont this time. Will wrap up this final lap of action, lap 27 of racing here in 60 minutes of action at Spa. Elliott into the bus stop chicane for the final time today, and it is going to be a race victory for car 019. A Chevrolet Corvette is going to victory lane for the final time this preseason here for the Simpit Road Racing Series. Race over at Spa.
What a victory for the 019. What a victory for Elliott. And that's certainly a way to kick off, I guess, to end your preseason effort, Andrew, and now just focus on the first race around COTA. The number 59 of Terry Crouch is going to be crossing the finish line soon. And, he's certainly going to be happy as well with second place. I mean, how could you possibly not be? And then, obviously, the number 35 of Yen is going to be crossing home in third place. That's going to be our podium. A fantastic race, Andrew. As you mentioned, a lot of battles early on, kind of calmed down a little bit on the mid part, but we always had at least something happening, which is a really nice thing and hopefully a sign of good things to come this season.
And check out those fireworks in the background, signifying that 1 hour of racing has come to a close. Elliott Hellier first. We'll go through the full results here in just a little bit. Some drivers further back that finish up one lap down: Brandon Carl, Kenneth Stepp, Alice Mom, David Sedator, Joe Osbolski, and more. James Dowling hangs on for a top 10. Flo Doms, it looks like, will do so as well. Flo Doms will be the next car to come to the start-finish line. And there's Flo Doms across, and he will wrap up his race again in the 10th spot. It looks like 8 more cars yet to finish. So drivers, if this was not relayed, we'll take the top 2 from each class. So in this case, that is Elliott Hellier and Terry Crouch from Pro. Stand on it, and I gotta find it, David Payne for Pro-Am, so long as he hangs on. Pro-Am, rather, for that second class. So yeah, David Payne does go second. That said, third place drivers, you should also make sure you're in Discord. We'll be flipping over to the Simpit Road Racing Series Discord in just a moment to be able to field your post-race interviews. Can't wait to hear from Elliott and Terry about their pro races, and really want to hear from Stan as well, considering this could be the final time we talk to him, or I guess the only time we talk to him as an amateur driver, JP.
Yeah, certainly could be. So it's certainly going to be interesting to see the secrets, I guess, behind that dominant class victory. But, that's still a few minutes out, but I'm kind of eager to see what he has to say about it.
All cars have finished. Let's go ahead and go through our unofficial race results this evening from Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Elliott Hellier out front, Terry Crouch second, Jan Christianen in that third spot, Randall White fourth, Kevin Burrows, your top 5, JP.
Sixth place goes the way of Johnny Alford. Stan Donnet is going to finish in 7 on the 401. The 666 of Pete Snake is going to finish in 8th ahead of James Dowling in 9th. And Flo Dams is going to finish in 10th place, Andrew.
Yeah, Flo Dom is going to get top 10 by virtue of the issues that we saw for Hinchy, I believe it was, with the connection. Finishing 11th, though, Amir Assad in position, car 36 in position 11. Moses Kwai finishes 12th. David Payne goes second in class ahead of Sean Cole and Eric Sanchinelli, the third amateur driver on this list. Sean Cole just checks into that top 15 with Eric Sanchinelli behind. Then you get guys like Ola Sarnquist, Dustin Oberlo, Sam Hinchy that just hang on to the lead lap, JP, ahead of Brandon Carl and Alice Mom to wrap out the top 20.
21st place, we're going to have David Saratoni in 21st, Joe Osmowski in 22nd, and Ken Estep in 23rd, Nicholas Batista in 24th, ahead of the number 82 of Sherman. Butchering these names, Andrew. You're gonna have to apologize. You're gonna have to accept my apologies, drivers. Michael Thompson is gonna finish in 26th, ahead of Brendan Waters, Christian Clark, Eric Hardman, and the 008 of Schultes in 30th place.
Finishing in the 31st position, you'll find car 42, Sven Labe, as I found out. Oh, let's reset that and go back. There we go, the final page of results. Sven Labe, ahead of Mike Nickum, Andrew White, Ken Nickel, Clint Fletcher, and William Martinez. In the 36th position, I think barely might have made the start, but does not complete the first lap of racing here at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. So that is your full rundown of the unofficial results this evening from the final round of the preseason for the Simpit Road Racing Series. We are going to take a quick step aside before rejoining you in just a few short moments for post-race coverage from Spa. That means driver interviews and more, so don't go anywhere just yet. I know it might be tempting to tune out, but we have got more interesting content here. Really, the most interesting part is we're going to hear from some drivers in a moment, so stick with us here at Pit Stop TV. We will be right back. Welcome back to Circuit de Spa Francorchamps. Welcome back to Pit Stop TV. Post-race coverage now of the final preseason round for the Simpit Road Racing Series. Now, again, this is very much preseason in that broadcast permission still to be worked out in the Discord server, so this might be a little bit hiccupy, so we apologize in advance. But we do have Elliot Hellier and more able to join our broadcast booth. I'll ask Terry to send Elliot in. We'll be able to talk with the winning driver this evening, JP, who put a spanking on the field, as you could say, in car 019. And Elliot, you led all but one lap, and that was only because of the pit cycle. How do you find that much speed out of a Chevrolet Corvette at Spa?
I don't know, just lots of laps, I guess. Like I've done a few laps around here in my time on iRacing, so I guess it's just that, really.
Well, there you go. 26 laps led out of 27 laps run today, and it's a pretty good way to wrap up this preseason. How do you look at the 10 races we've got lined up, beginning at COTA next week and ending at Silverstone? Which one stands out to you, and how do you try and go grab this championship?
It's a really strong schedule. I've never actually driven COTA before, so that'll be interesting to actually have to learn a new track for a series. But overall, I'm pretty excited about the kind of whole schedule itself. I'm fairly strong at most of the tracks there, so I'm looking forward to hopefully winning a few more races.
I think there's a lot of reason to be very, very happy with the schedule that we've got for this season. Elliot, congratulations winning this evening in dominating fashion, officially by 19.147 seconds. That is one large number, buddy. Congratulations, and hopefully we're talking to you a lot more this season.
Thank you very much for having me.
Elliot Hellier with the round 0 victory, if you will, this evening, JP. Let's head things over to number 59, Terry Crouch, in the second spot this evening. His Ferrari was on rails, just a little, a couple fewer rails than maybe Elliot's was. Elliot's Chevrolet was, for that matter. Terry was quick, but second quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Terry, I mean, second place certainly isn't a bad result. How would you reflect on this final round of the preseason schedule for the Simpit League?
It was about as well as could be expected. I don't think I've ever beaten Elliot in anything, in any car, anywhere. He's by far the fastest guy on our team. So just kind of keeping him honest for a little bit was a good feeling, and that was really about all I could hope for.
Absolutely, and obviously this was the final round. Next week we start the official season, and which track stands, for you the most? Which one are you most excited for? The one you're strongest? What are your overall opinions on it?
I don't really know. I like the whole schedule except for I've never done a lap at Fuji, so since that's a new track, and COTA's always a little dicey when you got no ABS, so that might be a little weird. But I guess Watkins Glen's my favorite, and probably Daytona, but a lot of people are fast at those two tracks, so we'll see.
Absolutely, and obviously next week starting, it just mentioned that your teammate obviously won today. Could you expect to beat him around COTA, maybe get a bit of those bonus points inside the team for beating him?
Oh, no chance. Nope.
Well, I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed, and hopefully that does happen. But Terry, it was amazing seeing you on that Ferrari, in second place, clearly strong, and hopefully you can keep this pace up for the rest of the season.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. So, Andrew, that was Terry Crouch, obviously teammates with the number 019. So, Elliot obviously has his teammates right behind. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this inner-team battle evolves throughout the season.
Meanwhile, it was all Stan Donnett in the amateur class, and, we had some YouTube viewers kind of theorize as to whether or not Stan would be moved up to pro, and well, Stan, it is a big-time race win for you here in the amateur. Obviously, doesn't really count for anything. It's the preseason still, but I think makes a statement regardless. And do you worry maybe that this means that A is going to change to a P for next week?
I'm pretty sure it probably is based on what Amir's already told me, so we shall see how that works out.
And well, that means, I guess, a whole new outlook on the season for you. We go to COTA next week to begin this season, then Fuji and a whole bunch of other tracks. Is there one that stands out to you? How do you feel about the schedule as a whole? 10 really solid tracks from what we've seen.
I agree. A lot of good tracks. I really don't have a favorite. I would have had to say that this would have been my favorite, but it didn't make the schedule. It's preseason. I haven't been around Coda a whole lot, but I do like Coda. I know that's not very popular. Probably get lynched for saying that, but we shall see. I think it's going to be a great season.
That it is. And you know what we haven't talked to any of you drivers about just yet is car selection. We see you in a Porsche this evening. Is that going to change before Coda next week? Do you have a different car you're looking at, or are you staying with the Porsche through and through?
No, I'm going to stay with the RSR. I bought the Vet and tried the Vet. I just felt on the edge in the Vet. I felt like the old Bimmer was a kind of a pig, and this thing is just, I know it's a porky pig also, but you know, I feel comfortable in it, so I think I'll probably stay with this.
There you go. Stand on it from the 7th place this evening overall, but first place in amateur. Stan, congratulations.
Thanks, man.
And JP, it was all David Payne of the second spot here in amateur competition, albeit finishing 6 positions behind the class leader in the 13th spot.
So David, you finished second place on your class, you know, a long way behind Stand On It, but I guess you can say you were better, the best of the rest on that amateur class. What went right for you today?
I think I was just focusing on consistency. I told myself, don't try to brake late, brake with plenty of time, hit apexes and exits, and then just have fun.
Absolutely, and that obviously got you this great place that it was. And well, on this final lap, the final race of the preseason schedule. Now, obviously, next week points start counting. Do you change that mentality that you now have?
I think as I build confidence, I will probably start to analyze my previous races going into it, and then so I can build up a pattern of where I'm deficient and where I need to improve. And I'll go from there.
Absolutely, that's a great mindset to have. Out of the whole schedule, which racetrack are you most comfortable with? Which racetrack do you expect to excel at on that schedule?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest. I like to say I'm slow and consistent everywhere. So, but yeah, I couldn't tell you offhand.
And the final question, Stand On It, is gonna
race as a whole here at Spa, and one that I'm sure a lot of drivers will want to put behind them, one that I think a lot of drivers will want to dwell on a little bit and kind of take with them into the beginnings of this season next week at Coda. And let's take a look once again at this series schedule for the Simpit Road Racing Series beginning next week, October the 2nd, 2022. Circuit of the Americas, Fuji International Speedway, Watkins Glen International, Elkhart Lakes Road America, Sebring International Raceway, Autodromo Nacional Monza, Red Bull Ring, Circuit of the South, Daytona International Speedway, and Silverstone Circuit. We've talked a lot about these tracks. We already have our favorites, JP. I am excited.
You're not alone, Andrew. Me too. I mean, it's just fun to see this variety of racetracks, short racetracks like Austria, really long tracks like Le Mans, I guess interesting tracks, new tracks for us, and obviously for the drivers that we just heard, Fuji, and obviously some of the classics that we have on iRacing, Daytona, Watkins Glen, Road America. It certainly has it all on here, and it's certainly going to be a lot of fun to follow these guys along for this almost over 2-month ride.
Yeah, 2 months and 2 days it looks like for these guys here for the Simpit Road Racing Series. Once again, a big thank you to our partners for this series, of course, the Simpit.com, Gomez Sim Industries, and Get Closer Racing, Accelerate Esports, all doing so much for us here with the series, and of course our partners as well, Pit Stop TV, Whiplash Media, SimCams, SimRepMarket.com, and Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine. JP, final thoughts here from Spa.
It was a really good final preseason race. Obviously, as we mentioned time and time again, this is the time to iron out those mistakes, to allow yourself to make mistakes, because from next week on, the points start gathering, Andrew. So it's good to get a nice start to your championship. So hopefully by next week, we're gonna see every driver, with a nice whole bunch of practice, on pit stops, on race pace, on overtaking, and we should hopefully see a fantastic first round.
upcoming broadcasts here at the channel. This is how they look. Well, you can see Sunday is still in that slot. Well, the first Sunday broadcast of 2 is still in that slot. So, of course, we move on then to the second broadcast here today, and that is at 8:45 Eastern, the Superior Class Auto Racing Radical Series, or SCAR Radical Series from Charlotte Motor Speedway on the Roval. Then Tuesday, it is the VRS Rookie Legends Cup at 8:30 Eastern from Oxford Plains Speedway. And Wednesday, it is the Outlaws Sim Series from the Charlotte Roval as well at 7:30 Eastern. And of course, we'll get back into the cycle of things next Sunday with the Simpit Road Racing Series and into the brand new season beginning at COTA. So a lot to look forward to here on the channel. And retrospectively, I just want to share. It has been already one interesting weekend. JP, I'm not sure what you were up to yesterday, but a little bit selfishly, I'll mention that I was at Martinsville Speedway for the Valley Star 300 for NASCAR late models, and I tell you what, that was one heck of a show. And again, selfishly, I want to mention that I was the one that had the camera pointed at that viral crash. I think many of you guys, or not viral crash, viral fight that many people may have seen on Twitter. That was pretty cool to be a part of yesterday, to be part of that broadcast for Flow Racing and capture that fight. That, I mean, it's been on Bleacher Report, it's been on the ESPN Sports Center, it's been on Barstool Sports, it's been all kinds of places. And the only thing that I take away from that is that it's unfortunate that we can't have fights in the sim. Wouldn't that be something if we could have fights between these drivers in the sim?
It would be something.
Anyway, that'll do it for us this evening from Spa. So glad to have JP along for the call today, and hopefully, I'd imagine, for this entire season. We'll see everybody once again this evening, actually, with JP back with me a little bit later today for the SCAR Radical Series. So glad to have them for the back end of their series, but they are wrapping up tonight, the final round from Charlotte. So hopefully you can tune in for that one again, 8:45 Eastern. We will see you there. For now, though, that has been it for Pit Stop TV. Thanks so much for tuning in. Check out our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, the whole lot of them. Follow, like, subscribe, all of that, and we will see you next time for the Simpit Road Racing Series at COTA next week or later tonight for the SCAR Radical Series at Charlotte. Until then, have a great night.